The title of main antagonist in Sonic Forces and one of the few challenger rarity cards in the game belong to Infinite. Infinite is an event-exclusive challenger rarity character that was considered one of the most fundamentally broken characters in the entire game for the longest time. However, like the super forms, Infinite has since been nerfed in the most recent update and thus has had his overpowered reputation held in question since that update. Starting out, let's look at his stats. Infinite's stats are among the highest within the entire game, boasting a massive 10 out of 10 acceleration and speed stat, while his lowest stat is his strength stat, which stands at an average 6 out of 10. With these stats in mind, it's not insane to assume that Infinite is one of, if not the, fastest character in the entire game. Although his resistance to damage is average, his speed and kit more than make up for his weak point. Now, while we're on the topic of Infinite's kit, let's move on to his power-ups. Infinite's projectile is the Reality Wall. At low levels, this projectile is a small wave of cubic energy that doesn't seem that impressive in first glance. Although should anyone be hit by this projectile, they'll experience a temporary reality shift, which everything becomes a spike pad. Item boxes, dash pads, and even enemy robots are invulnerable whilst under reality warp's effect. What's worse is that once Infinite reaches level 6 and beyond, he can increase the amount of lanes his projectile can take up. And at level 12, reality warp will become incredibly difficult to jump over, which makes Reality Warp an absolute monster to deal with online. As for Infinite's boost, he gets a very similar boost to that of the super forms in Speed Battle. Phantom Dash will get faster and faster the longer it is used for, consuming rings depending on how long the boost is used for. But unlike the super forms, Infinite is not held back by a ring condition and can unleash the boost pretty much whenever it is available to him. Additionally, opponents hit during his boost will also experience Reality Warp's effects for a certain amount of time. But unfortunately, this boost can suffer from conditional needs in order to properly take advantage of its power. You'll likely need over 50 rings at least to take full advantage of Phantom Dash's power and speed. Additionally, after the boost is up, Infinite will be very slow and sluggy upon running out of rings, which may let opponents catch up to him near the end of the track. All in all, a decent boost, albeit situational. And lastly, Infinite's trap is called the Deadly Replica. Similar to the Zap Trap power-up, Infinite will spawn a PNG of himself in front of an opponent at random that will cause damage and apply the Reality Warp effect on the opponent for a brief amount of time. Although a fun and amusing trap, it is often easy to avoid due to how easy it is to see it coming. But should you decide to go all the way and fully upgrade Infinite, you can deploy multiple Deadly Replicas and make Infinite's trap one of the most formidable and difficult traps in the entire game. The reason for this is that lane coverage in Speed Battle is massive, and if Infinite has access to something that can only be dodged covering multiple lanes, he's going to be putting a huge amount of pressure on his opponents. Taking Infinite's overall kit into account, he is an incredibly strong character if you know how to use him. He has range, speed, projectiles, control, and much more. Depending on how you use him, Infinite will likely end up as one of the strongest characters you'll use in your roster. But alas, let's move on to our final verdict. Taking everything into account, in spite of Infinite's nerfs, I'm still willing to grade Infinite overall at a staggering 9 out of 10. He's just incredible. Rivaling the likes of Mephiles and maybe Knuckles in just how oppressive and fast he is. Plus, being able to potentially stop my opponents from using dash pads and powers that I can use just fine is an insane ability, and one that has aged gracefully since he came out last year. In my experience and my time using him, Infinite is the type of character to either dominate first place once he gets there, or bide his time and collect rings before he invades first place at the last few seconds. For taking everything into account and summarising his character overall, I'd say Infinite is a very strong character, and if the opportunity arises, I highly suggest you pick him up should his event ever return again. But yeah, Infinite is just incredible. Like, you should really pick him up if you get him.